Yeah. Okay.
You're live now, Robbie.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our introduction to Snow Spend Auditor. I'm Robbie Richmond, Managing Director at EasySAM, and over the course of the next sort of 45 minutes or so, we'll give you a detailed introduction to a fairly targeted sort of module within the Snow product family. Just a little bit about EasySAM. First off, we're a specialist software asset management consultancy. We utilize products like Snow to help customers achieve cost reduction, optimization, and reduction in software compliance risks. We have a number of partnerships with both software vendors as well as software resellers and Microsoft LSPs, so we can provide our services either directly or through our channel of partners. Just a brief overview of the services that we offer. They range from a baseline assessment through to compliance or an ELP, an effective license position, across a number of different software vendors. We cover the whole range of software products and vendors out there. So whether you're just looking for a straightforward Microsoft true-up calculation, or you want a full review of your software compliance and licensing position across your entire software estate, that's something that we can provide. We also can help with SAM tool implementation and selection, one of the reasons why we partner with organizations like Snow, and we can offer a full managed service as well. I know you guys are not really here to hear a lot about EasySAM, you're here to see the Snow Spend Auditor, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on EasySAM, but happy to answer any questions that you might have a bit later. What are the main sort of benefits in implementing a software asset management system? Aside from the obvious reduction in costs, which can be up to 30% as far as Gartner are concerned, there's also better preparation for IT projects, the obvious risk of avoidance, risk of compliance avoidance. We know software vendors have been quite active in that area at the moment. Reducing annual maintenance expenditure and being able to provide a measurable and demonstrable return on investment for your SAM tool. That's the main reason why we recommend tools like Snow Spend Auditor as a way of kind of helping to drive that. This was an article just from a couple of months ago, which shows that the impact of COVID-19 and specifically the impact on software audits, basically, as this article refers to, what happened when COVID hit. A lot of software vendors kind of put pause on any compliance activity because with the disruption in the market, the change in the way organizations had to manage and provide access for their staff, etc. That disruption wasn't the right time for those organizations to continue to do audits. But as this article continues, what we're seeing now is a significant uptick in the number of audits being carried out. So this particular presentation, I hope, is quite timely. There are a lot of software vendors out there who have missed some of their targets from last year or struggling to hit their targets this year because of COVID, and so they will be looking to recover that. And be quite interesting to see, maybe in the text box or the Q&A box, you might be able to give us some ideas to whether you're sort of starting to see that sort of activity within your organizations. That's my brief introduction. I'm going to now hand over to Tony Coughlin. Tony is a product evangelist, I suppose, from Snow, and he's going to take us through the features and functionality of Snow Spend Auditor. Tony, over to you.
Thanks very much, Robbie, and thanks for inviting me. I hope you're all keeping well. I'm just going to share my screen here. Okay, so welcome to today's session, and as Robbie's clearly outlined there, I'm going to be taking you through Snow's newly aligned product technology suite, and we're going to be doing a particular focus on Spend Auditor today. So my name's Tony Coughlin. I work in the solution consulting team. I've been with Snow for over 5 years now, and I've been working in the SAM industry for over 15 years. Boy, time flies, doesn't it? So today we're going to discuss why Snow has redefined their technology suite, what is Spend Auditor, and what value can it bring to your organization. I'm then going to give a live demo. We'll recap with some use cases, and then finally we're going to finish with a quick Q&A session as well. So if you saw the previous session that we did around Snow's adoption tracker, I just wanted to quickly recap on Snow's mission, and that is really to provide a complete insight and manageability across all technology. So one thing you might notice in our mission statement is the use of all technology rather than simply software. Now, the reason for that distinction is fairly straightforward. We see the market shifting really due to this really explosive growth in software as a service, infrastructure as a service, and platform as a service, which in turn is really sort of changing the behavior of our customers. And this is also resulting in decentralization of IT, where the business units really, they have the ability to almost bypass IT to go and purchase the technology that they need because they want it right now. And customers are now really seeking platforms capable of managing everything. So they want software, hardware, SaaS, IaaS, and PaaS. There's probably more of those acronyms out there as well. But we call this one platform view Snow's Technology Intelligence Suites. So let's look at our new go-to-market offering, which supports this strategy. So the Snow platform consists of 4 product lines, which focus on the values and the business outcomes that we believe the solution can help your organization achieve. And those being visibility, optimization, governance, and transformation. And within these lines, we have 6 individual products that you can see on the screen there, and I'll be talking about Spend Auditor. And important to understand that this directly builds on the capabilities that you might have seen before with Adoption Tracker. So as a reminder, Adoption Tracker enables discovery, inventory, and normalization of your digital assets. And then Spend Auditor provides insight into what's driving technology spend and ensures you've got an audit-ready organization. So these 2 products, when purchased together, provide you with a foundation of total visibility and everything that's necessary for further insights, such as being able to optimize and providing governance as well. So, if you wanted to further expand, you could then look at those additional products in addition. So I wanted to talk about Snow's data intelligence service as well. This is obviously included with the product, but really this is Snow's class-leading data intelligence service. What the DIS is doing is automatically normalizing all the raw inventory data that we receive and then compares it to our database. So the database contains over 650,000 applications from over 100,000 vendors. And we're the market leader in terms of our recognition database. So the DIS automates that data normalization process and produces you with a software record with standardized names and additions. So you can quickly and easily determine which software titles you have in use and who's using them. Now, in addition, the DIS combined with Spend Auditor includes some other really useful information. So you can see there we've got over 1.2 million SKUs in the database. So these are stock keeping unit references, which can automatically identify exactly which product as you've purchased. So just as an example, I don't know if you've ever tried to look at an invoice from a vendor as to what you've purchased. Sometimes, most of the time, I'd say it's not really clear as to what you've really bought. And with a SKU reference, you can understand whether that's a full license or an upgrade license, whether you've purchased the rights to use a suite of products or just a single application. Do you receive application upgrade or downgrade rights with that purchase? Does the application actually require a license, or is it a piece of freeware? What's the most common license metric for that? Is it, for example, does it come as a processor or a core license? And is it tied to that particular SKU? Do you have cross-edition rights? Is it a subscription-only license? There's so many things I could go on and on about how being able to quantify exactly what you've purchased, especially when you come to look at your effective license position, is really, really important. So as you can see on this slide, Snow's technology intelligence platform can provide your organization with the ability to rationalize the information from numerous asset inventory systems on the left there, and automatically populate Snow with the consumption data. Now you can use Snow's proprietary Snow agent for inventory data, or you could use an existing third-party technology you might be using already. So Snow Spend Auditor augments the sort of the standard normalized technology usage data that you would get with Adoption Tracker, but now you're able to augment that with business data. So things like user information, contracts, agreements, entitlements, cost information, any other metadata. So let's look at that in a little bit more detail. So by entering cost and entitlement information into Spend Auditor, you can quickly then gain a picture of where, how, by who technology purchases are all being made. And what's more, you are then able to allocate those costs, enable chargebacks to regions, departments, or specific groups in your business. So as responsibility for that technology spend increasingly moves outside of IT through the likes of software and platform as a service, enabling cost allocation and chargeback becomes almost a critical capability if you're going to effectively manage your spend within the organization. And additionally, I think for those organizations preparing for the likes of audit defense or upcoming contract renewals or negotiations, Snow Spend Auditor allows you to determine your effective license position, so you know exactly how many licenses are being used compared to your entitlements, and then all automatically calculated with the correct vendor licensing metrics and methodologies. Okay, so we're going to switch over to a live demo, and I'm going to take you through some of the aspects there that I just talked about. So now you can see I've logged into the web UI for Spend Auditor. And firstly, let's talk about agreements. So I'm going to go into my agreements overview, and I get a straightforward dashboard as to what's happening with my agreements currently. We can obviously, from the basis of Snow, the idea is to build a central repository for all your agreements and your licenses, so everything's held in a single location, and you have easy access to that, as well as the ability to create alerts for when agreements coming up for renewal, for example, and to give you access to things like your terms and conditions and actual physical copies of those contracts. So we can see from my view here that actually I've got a contract that has already expired. And I'm going to drill into that one. This is, in this case, an Adobe license program. So we can see the details. This is a software agreement. In this case, you can create any type of agreement you like. It doesn't have to be software. It doesn't even have to be IT related. We get details around the cost of this contract. So what's been our total investment in terms of licenses? This contract's obviously expired, but I might have active maintenance, and that might be over a period of years as well. So we'd get a breakdown of those costs as well as support costs. We can see the expiration date, and we can also see the renewal date. So I'm going to quickly edit this agreement just so that you can see the various aspects that sit behind this agreement. What I really like here is you can see within the settings here at the bottom that I could mark this, for example, as a subscription agreement. And you can see that this agreement comes with, has already been selected to have active upgrade rights. What that means is that rather than having to change the licenses or on every individual license line, I can control these upgrade and subscriptions directly from the contract. And why that's useful is if this was a subscription agreement, for example, what would happen is during that active term, once the contract expires, Snow will automatically expire all the licenses that are associated to that contract also. You can see we can perhaps renegotiate this contract in this case, and we could extend or add a new period to the contract. So if we want to monitor the history of that contract over time, we can see where it's been renewed. Obviously, we can keep some very basic information around the contacts in order to, renew that contract. Here's where our alerts are set. So these alerts can be sent directly to the people responsible, so the contract owners, via email, or they can be sent to a dashboard. So if that person's got a login into the system, they can see any new alerts. So they can start preparing for those contract renewals rather than having them fall on your desk when they've already passed that 60-day period when you could have cancelled that contract, and now you're into a cycle of having to renew something without necessarily expecting it. As I mentioned, we use it as a central repository, so you can obviously add a copy of that contract. So you have it in a central location. You can also create custom fields. And this is true of anything in Snow, whether that be an application, a computer, a user, an agreement or a license. You can create your own custom fields. And what's useful about that is obviously then you can also report on those particular fields as well. And then finally, you can also restrict access to contracts. So based on the configuration of your organization when the Snow solution is implemented, you can reflect exactly how your organization is structured and then perhaps restrict access to particular parts of the solution. So let's have a look quickly at a license as well. We can see we've got Acrobat Pro 2017 here. I'm just going to click into that one. And here's the details around the license itself. I'm going to quickly again edit this license. And I want to talk about, I mentioned the stock keeping unit. You can see this license has been added just as a particular product. If I knew the actual stock keeping unit, and you can see Snow automatically works out all the SKUs that this product's available as. Let's say I picked C4. You can see at the bottom here, this license has been added with downgrade rights and cross-platform rights automatically. If I include this SKU, we get some detail around what that actual SKU is, but what you will have noticed is that the upgrade license is now been ticked automatically as well. So this product description, whatever that means, actually is an upgrade license only. So this is where I talked about making sure, you know, the product use rights you get correct when you're loading your entitlement. And the benefit of being able to do that via a SKU rather than a description is crucial when you're coming to get an accurate ELP from the platform. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about the recognition of applications via the data intelligence service that I mentioned. You can see I've gone into my list of all applications. So these are all the applications that are installed in my environment. I've got about 15,000. You'll notice that the application names are really simple to understand. So this is where we are normalizing that raw executable, often inventory data, and putting it into an easy to understand format. You can see the manufacturers are all consistent in their naming conventions. So you're only ever looking for one manufacturer. We've got a list of all the installations I have, how many users of those applications. Does that application require a license? I can very quickly filter on that to understand exactly, well, what are the really more risky applications perhaps in my environment? And now we're down to about a third, which is typically what I see when I talk to customers. We can see the metric of those applications, whether we have multiple metrics in place, and even is this application part of a bundle or does it come as a suite of products? You can also very easily add in other columns into here. So whether that might be something like the application family, for example, I can just drag and drop these. And I can also drag and drop so that I can filter my view dynamically as well. So let's look at a particular application. I'm going to look for something like Office. So let's have a look at something like we've got Office 2013 Professional Plus. And I can drill into that. And now this takes me into my compliance position for this particular product. So we can see the number of installs we have, obviously how many licenses, what's our license requirement, because that might differ. This is a fairly straightforward, obviously based on installations. And we can see we're nice and compliant here. Interestingly, on the front screen, you can see I don't have any licenses, but I'm compliant. There's a good reason for that. Actually, if I look at my transfers, I can see that Snow's recognized I do have some licenses available from an edition which I have downgrade rights for, and it's automatically put me into a compliance position based on that calculation. We can also see the allocation. So where are these licenses being consumed across the various parts of the organization? Which devices are they actually installed on? And are they being used? So this is where the usage information, which comes with Snow's proprietary inventory agent, is really powerful. We can see who's using the applications. And I talked about the bundle content. Well, the data intelligence service also incorporates that level of detail. So here's all the applications that come with Pro Plus. I don't have to go and research all these. This is all automatically populated. And again, if you're looking to renegotiate something, this is really useful to be able to understand if you've got modules of this suite which are actually not being used. So is Professional Plus really required, or could we buy individual products and perhaps remove things like access? In this case, we have a fair usage of that. And again, we also have the SKU data that sits behind this. So actually nearly 4,500 ways to buy Office. It's quite incredible. And then finally, we have the financial information that can be associated to this as well. So you can associate costs based on the license itself, and that would get automatically calculated, or you could add in an RRP cost. So if you didn't have any licenses and actually you wanted to perhaps calculate a worst case scenario, shall we say, then you can do that within Snow as well. I think when we look at sort of complete visibility, we've looked at just one Office application here. But what I can do is, Snow has the concept of families of products as well. So I can look at all my installs of Office in a single screen. So now we can see on the left here a chart which shows us the actual number of licenses here required versus our entitlement at a glance for all of my Office applications. I can also see on the right hand side what's my total investment been in this product family. What's my risk from a compliance for this family, and where might I have some risks or sort of soft savings based on unused installations and underutilized software as well. If I quickly scroll down, you can actually see the licenses I purchased are basically 2016 Pro Plus and Standard, whereas if we look at the actual applications that are installed across my estate, I can quickly see that obviously 365 is by far my biggest kind of shortfall, because that's what I'm using the most. Again, we can see which devices all those applications are installed on, and we can filter those, and we can look at the users. So we've looked at an individual product for Microsoft, and we've looked at a family. Well, I can also look at Microsoft as a vendor. So in a single screen now, I can get a comprehensive view, which includes what's my most installed applications for Microsoft, where are my biggest license investments, which applications do I have within that environment that require a license. I can sort this very quickly to look at where's my biggest shortfalls, and also obviously again look at the costs associated to those. I can see all my applications that don't require a license from Microsoft, my software agreements, my licenses. So all in a single page. Really easy to navigate through. I want to quickly look at a report which I've saved actually to my favorites list here. And this is a Microsoft potential software savings report that I've created. Very simple to create. We're just quickly going to run that report. And this is going to show us essentially What does our compliance look like for this vendor? Which licenses have I already purchased? Where are my actual savings likely to come from? And what potential savings could I make based on unused applications? So, because I'm doing Microsoft here, and you saw the size of my estate, taking a little time. And this is the joys of doing live demos. Here we go. So now we can see the individual applications. What is my license requirement? I can look quickly at my compliance here and sort that. Now I can see exactly where I've got license compliance shortfalls. And this is really useful when you're coming to renegotiate contracts, especially. So if you're doing any kind of true up activity, understanding that actually you've got a large number of unused installations. You know, is it the case that perhaps people asked for something, it got installed, but we never really tracked using it? We just add it to our sheet and say at the end of the year, okay, we're gonna renew based on those numbers. What's much more powerful is being able to understand whether those were ever used, and then only paying for those where you require, you know, somebody's actually using it, and so therefore requires a license. So you could remove it from those unused computers first. So let's talk a little bit about cost allocation. Yeah, I'm just going to pull up a favorite report I've got here. This is a license entitlement report per organization. What you can see is this report has automatically been grouped by the individual organizations here. So that allows me to look at those individual organizations only and understand exactly what's deployed within there. So Snow has the concept of, I showed it a little bit earlier in the agreements section where we had the organizational structure. So Snow has the concept of being able to put these devices, in this case, into specific groups automatically. So based on a certain configuration, Snow will automatically put these devices using something we call an auto connect rule into these organizational buckets. Now, what that allows us to do, in addition to simply moving them, is if we look at another report we have here, which is our total cost of ownership per organization, is to be able to start then looking at other benefits, including, for example, automatic chargebacks, and to empower you, you know, giving you insights into sort of regional or divisional or departmental costs within your organization. So now we can see the actual costs involved for each of these devices. And I could drag that back down and see exactly where they are as well. So if you wanted to create a report, perhaps for just your finance department, for their usage of software and what they're costing per year, you can very quickly do that in Snow. You could even add in perhaps a cost center for these devices, automatically put those devices into that cost center, and then provide chargebacks based on that cost center as well. So finally, I wanted to talk about effective license positions. if I look at my licenses overview here, you can see obviously my view for the whole organization in terms of what does it look like from an application breakdown. I've got some alerts here telling me that I have some unassignments the assignments that haven't taken place yet. We're going to look at this compliance report. I'll gloss over the amount of under licensing I have. But you know, a couple of clicks of a button, I can immediately see my compliance position based on, and this has been grouped by type. So here are all my compliant applications. You'll see we have the costs associated with those as well. So those are all being tallied up automatically. And I could group, here's all my over licensed and my under licensed. So what about if we wanted to look at that for a particular vendor? Well, I could run a report, a compliance report just for Microsoft, for example. So I'll simply put in a filter here. And now I get a view on a particular vendor. And again, being able to break down all the detail that sits behind these, as well as your sort of upgrade and downgrade rights and assignment capabilities, is that being able to analyze exactly where the spend is going within the organization as well. And again, you know, really key for your contract negotiations, renewals, or your audit defense to very quickly be able to pinpoint an area and create an effective license position. Okay. So let's have a quick recap on what we've seen with Spend Auditor today. And this is just in the form of 5 key use cases that you might want to consider when you're looking at your SAM outcomes. So first is the ability to quickly see a holistic view of your technology spend. Second, you want to be able to easily identify your top technology vendors by spend. Thirdly, you need automatic reconciliation and normalization of data in a format that makes it really easy to understand. Fourth, you need to be able to quickly enable cost allocation of assets to different business units within the organization and to be able to report on them effectively. And finally, and obviously crucially, you want the ability to easily create effective license positions in order to support your vendor negotiations. Okay, so we've got time now, I think, Robbie, for a quick Q&A.
We've had a couple of questions through, so if anybody does want to, can you hear me, Tony? Yeah.
Yes, I can.
Okay. If anybody does want to flag up any questions, please use the Q&A button at the bottom of the Teams window. So I'll just go through a couple of questions we've had in, because if anybody has any more, please do feel free to ask. So Tony, a question: can organizations use Spend Auditor to understand and manage their Oracle estate? Yeah, great question. Thanks. Yes, ultimately. So Spend Auditor in the data center, which again includes the adoption tracker capabilities, provides quite a broad range of key Oracle capabilities, and we're talking, you know, being able to add and import and store all your Oracle database orders. So similar to what we saw with the contracts, you know, being able to pull all those in a central repository, being able to store your key Oracle agreements, any specific terms and conditions you might have with Oracle. You know, Oracle's, I'm sure you've seen this, Robbie, particularly heavy and
very expensive. So Oracle are one of those vendors that are kind of one of the few vendors, I would say, that are keen to sort of do bespoke product use rights with particular with their particular customers. You can also create Oracle Server Worksheet reports automatically. So similarly to what we saw with the effective license positions, you could do something similar for Oracle, and obviously specific compliance reporting as well. And along with the Oracle database recommendations, we can also give insights such as things like where you might have Oracle in use in a soft partitioned environment or a hard partitioned environment like you have with VMware and IBM, etc. as well. So yeah, there's a lot of quite powerful capabilities within Snowd for Oracle databases.
I think the question about Oracle is a good one as well, because Oracle certainly historically have been one of the most active in terms of conducting software audits, and I remember attending an Oracle user group, a UK Oracle user group, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and it was calculated from the people in the room that about 45% of Oracle's database revenue comes through audit. So it's a massive cash cow for them, and given the slide I showed earlier on, which talked about the increase in vendor audits, I think Oracle are definitely going to be at the coalface in terms of that. So yeah, it was a good question, and thanks for that information. The next one, another hot topic, Tony. Those of us in the SAM world kind of see this as really the next big challenge is around how tools like Spend Auditor can be used to help organizations understand their SaaS environment. Can you give us a quick rundown on how Spend Auditor can sort of address those situations?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, again, yeah, and in addition to the adoption tracker visibility of SaaS applications in use, Spend Auditor sort of builds on that from a cost point of view as well. So we have automatic recognition of those SaaS applications in use, and we can do that through our Snow inventory technology. So we're able to monitor known web URLs that people are linking to, and then translating that into basically, this is a cloud application in use, and these are all your users using it, a bit like we saw with the application rationalization there. And then it also provides kind of a holistic view of the SaaS application spend across each of the business regions and the business units. So that's sort of over and above the basic recognition, as well as the ability to be able to quickly identify your top vendors in terms of spend, and then capabilities to hopefully identify the drivers behind that SaaS spend. So are these known applications that you were expecting people to have been using, or have they gone down the kind of shadow IT route? Perhaps they've got their corporate credit card out and subscribed to something that perhaps you weren't expecting, and really addressing it from a spend point of view ultimately.
Yeah, those dreaded credit card transactions,
yes,
the bane of SAM teams and software compliance teams across the country, no doubt. And then the last question we've got, like I said, if anyone's got any questions, I've got a couple of minutes just to pop them onto the Q&A feed. But the last question that we've got, Tony, is about the ability to categorize applications. So like having whitelist or blacklist type application lists, is that something we can do through Spend Auditor?
Yes, another good question. No, for that particular use case, that's not available with Spend Auditor, but it is a capability for Snow's Spend Optimizer, which is kind of like the next tier up from Spend Auditor. So hopefully we'll get to discuss that in another session with yourselves, but that does include those abilities, those capabilities kind of out of the box. So you can, you know, put applications into particular buckets where you want people to, so they're kind of approved or whitelisted applications. And then you can also use something we call a deny list for unauthorized applications. So perhaps those are things like, you know, applications which might be a security risk, or might be things like games, etc. So you want to automatically alert on those. And also included in that would be things like end of life, end of support. So again, our Snow's data intelligence service contains all that information that then gets released out with Spend Optimizer.
Nice way of introducing Spend Optimizer, which is obviously going to be the next product that we do a sort of presentation around. So just to reiterate what Tony said earlier on, so Spend Auditor is a kind of modularized component of Snow's product range, and so, you know, it's designed to address specific kind of business cases and specific business requirements. And there are other products in the range that either we've talked about already or we will talk about in sort of future
Yes.
sort of presentations. So
yeah, it's very much about a value-based solution, really. Is, you know, why buy something if you're not going to utilize it? So we've tried to put the products into those different silos so people get their, you know, the best value from the solution.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. We've spent a lot of time within EasySAM over the last probably 2 years, very much focused on that return on investment, and very much trying to measure and demonstrate to organizations the actual value they get from their investment, whether it be in a SAM managed service or in a SAM tool. And, you know, being able to demonstrate that return on investment is really key. You know, if an organization is investing, you know, £50,000 in a SAM solution and they're getting, you know, £500,000 worth of benefit, then that shows that implementation was a success. If they're not able to measure that, or they're not getting that return on investment, then, you know, you'd question the value of having that tool in place at all. So, you know, a real focus on return on investment is something that we've definitely focused on. So I think that's a good it's a good way of kind of modularizing the product so that you can address the specific urgent requirements and needs of an organization. So I think that's a good step, Tony. Okay, I don't have any other questions in the Q&A box. So I'd just like to thank Tony for his presentation, and thank you guys all for joining us today. We've recorded the session and we'll send copies of that out to those who've attended, as well as we had a few people who couldn't make it today. Obviously last minute a few things come up, so we'll send copies of that presentation out. We'll also send out a little bit of information on Spend Auditor, and if you've got any questions or want to see a more detailed product demonstration, particularly tailored to your environment, and maybe a bit of time to, you know, pick the brains of someone like Tony on a sort of one-to-one basis, that's something that we can arrange.
Yeah.
So thanks, Tony. Appreciate you taking the time today.
Thank you. You're welcome.
And hopefully we will send you out some details on the Snow Spend Optimizer, which will be the next one in the series. We'll send those details out to you soon. So thanks, guys, for attending, and we will hopefully speak to you all soon. Thank you.
Thank you.